Anybody that knows me knows that there is only one thing I'm more passionate about in baseball than my Cincinnati Reds, and that is baseball in Indiana. So it is my genuine pleasure to have with us the president of the South Bend Cubs himself, Mr. Joe Hart. And Mr. Hart, I appreciate you joining us here today.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Well, I'll tell you, with in your profession in minor league baseball, I'm sure you've talked to some big names, and you've rubbed elbows with some big names. So, in your professional career of minor league baseball, where does doing an interview with a hat collector rank in that series?
It ranks right up there. I mean, my biggest thing is I enjoy talking with people that have such a passion about baseball in general, and it's not just professional baseball. I mean, obviously, little league, high school, anything that shares that passion. I truly appreciate having the opportunity to talk to them because they appreciate the game and they appreciate, what I do as a profession. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm happy when you reached out and asked if I'd be willing to do this. Absolutely. Love talking baseball.
Well, I'll tell you, just in our communication offline, I could tell the same of you. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
You're the president of the South Bend Cubs. There's probably some high school kids watching this show, and we like to talk about the profession in baseball outside of coaching. So let's look at your career just a little bit and take us through the experiences and, the education maybe, or the desire that got you to be the president of the South Bend Cubs.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was baseball was always my passion. It was my favorite sport to play when I was younger. I always had dreams of playing, hopefully in the major leagues. So I went to West Virginia University, got my degree in sport management. I had hoped to walk on. I was a pretty decent ball player. But I was from a small town, so I went to West Virginia University, and my plan was either I'm going to try to walk on and play at a big school, or if not, I'm going to get my degree and continue on with something that I truly have a passion for. And luckily for me, I made that choice because I ended up during tryouts, hurt my arm, had shoulder surgery, so that kind of put the end of the playing days. But there I was still at West Virginia, had a great sport management program, got my degree, graduated in 4 years. In between my junior and senior year, they helped us do or find internships. So I did an internship at that point in time with the Buffalo Bisons, which were the #1 minor league franchise in all of baseball. At that time, they were the AAA affiliate for the Cleveland Indians. So got my foot in the door that way, realized, man, I really love this. I love the minor leagues, and I think I can make a career out of it. And here I am 25 plus years later. The journey has been long to get to South Bend and be a president of this franchise. Like I said, I did an internship in Buffalo, New York, and then I graduated, went to Harlingen, Texas for an internship, which was at that point in time an independent league baseball team. Got hired on full-time at the end of that year, and then went to Nashville, Tennessee, Fresno, California, back to Nashville, Tennessee, Port Charlotte, Florida, where that was a unique stop for me because there it was a brand new franchise. They bought the Vero Beach Club and relocated to Port Charlotte, and we were the single-A affiliate for the Tampa Bay Rays. And at that point in time, we were running spring training on their behalf, and that was them coming off the World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies. But my team owner there was Cal Ripken Jr., which for me as a kid, as a huge baseball fan, he was my idol. And I had the opportunity to work for the Ripken organization for 3.5 years. And then I was blessed with the opportunity to come to South Bend and be the team president here and take a franchise that quite honestly had been struggling and revitalize it and bring it back to life. And here we are 8 years later. Now that I've been in South Bend, franchise is rolling along, and here we are as a Cubs affiliate as well.
It sure is rolling along, and I'll tell you, it's good to hear too. Kind of a recurring theme for those that are listening and have listened to the rest of the episodes in this session and this series here is just what you were saying. You had an idea of what you wanted to do. You wanted to continue with the baseball. But what we hear over and over and over in all these interviews is something that you just reiterated perfectly. You got a passion for baseball.
Yeah.
So you're gonna stick with that, and as long as you love it and do the work, you're going to get to where you want to be. And that's great that you mentioned that, because that just reiterates the theme that's been going on at all levels we've been talking to, the little league all the way up to the big leagues. So you're in South Bend. You say you've been there 8 years. Let's talk about the South Bend impact on the community, because it is big. You guys have a good fan base. There's something, tell us about the South Bend Cubs Foundation, maybe to start with.
Yeah, it's a foundation we started a couple years ago. It's actually run by Mark Haley, who anybody that knows anything about South Bend, when I got here in 2012, we were actually the South Bend Silverhawks. We were an affiliate of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And our team manager at the time was Mark Haley. He been with the Diamondbacks for years. He'd been the manager of the Silverhawks for 10 plus years. And then we had the opportunity to switch in 2015 to the Chicago Cubs affiliation. And at that point in time, Mark said, hey, I don't want to travel. He lives here in South Bend. He had younger kids and knew we were building this indoor hitting facility for the minor league players and during our season. But we decided to make it a year-round facility. So Mark leads it. He's the director of the facility. We do private instruction, memberships, all that. And the other thing he did is, as part of that, is started a foundation where we help, lower income inner city kids learn the game of baseball. And who better learn it from than a guy that's got 25 plus years of experience working in the major leagues.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned that's called the Performance Center. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's a First Source Bank Performance Center. It's about a 17,000 square foot facility. It's got 6 indoor cages, mound, weight room. Our initial goal with building this is we were trying to land the Chicago Cubs affiliation to relocate to South Bend. So we said, here's what we're going to do. And then in the process of it, we said, hey, let's use it as a community benefit as well. And, especially now this time of year in the winter, it's getting a ton of use. We run travel teams out of it. We've had kids that have worked out in there that actually have gone on and played college baseball. A lot of kids that, are home during the winter time that play college ball. We let them use the facility still as long as they do some free lessons to help give back to the community. So it's been a win-win situation for us. The Chicago Cubs love it, obviously, because it's a great facility, but it's been great for the community as well.
It sounds like it's fun. And, talking about the youth involvement, talk to me about, because I know there's some great programs that involve the youth there at Four Winds Field and the South Bend Cubs run.
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is getting the youth involved. This is America's pastime. The youth are the future of the game. And so there are a lot of unique things that we try to do. We work with a lot of the local youth little leagues and, Babe Ruth, Cal Ripken leagues. And, there's so many leagues now out there, it's hard to keep track. When I was a kid, it was just Little League baseball. But we work with all of them. We try to get them out to the ballpark to do fun events out at the stadium. But one of the biggest ones is we do a Field of Dreams program where individual teams can come out. They get to go down on the field. They get to meet the players ahead of time. And then literally, when our players run out to their positions, one of these kids run out with them, get to stand with them during the national anthem. And, we take it for granted, I think, because we're in the industry and we're there all the time. But that's making dreams and making memories for these kids. That's something that they're going to always remember. You don't always remember the score of the game when you leave, but you remember those unique things. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. It's about good community entertainment and something that's going to benefit the game of baseball long term. And we hope these kids remember it, continue to play the game, and play it the right way.
Well, I'll tell you, and that brings up a good point too, that with minor league baseball, kind of the recurring theme. Now we're going to talk about the fantastic season you guys had here in a second, but in minor league baseball, and this is it's being felt a little bit by some of the, the potential reductions that are coming down from Major League Baseball. But, like you said, in minor league baseball, it's, I don't want to say it's not about the wins and the losses, but it is certainly less of a priority, I would say anyway. And I think I'm not alone on that, compared to just the experience of being at the minor league field, the outreach, the community programs that the minor league teams have. So, another hat tip to another great program, minor league program in Indiana that's doing it so well, and you guys. And on that note, let's talk about the franchise for a little bit. So you guys have been a Class A affiliate with the Cubs now for, I think it was 5 years, you said, playing at just another beautiful minor league baseball field in Indiana, Four Winds Field. So tell us a little bit about, the Four Wind Fields experience. I think you've got a new Ivy, I think it's called, at Berlin Place you've got coming up. You're only 90 miles from Wrigley, so you're going to have I think you called it the Wrigley of the East or something like that. Tell us about that fan experience, the franchise of the Cubs, the fan experience at Four Winds Fields, just a little bit about how exciting it is to be involved with South Bend Cubs.
Well, I think the biggest thing is when I got here and when our owner, Andrew Berlin, bought the ball club November 11th of 2011, it was a franchise that had really fallen on hard times. It was something that the community knew it was here, but nobody was engaged. Nobody was going in anymore. And, at the end of the 2011 season, the team drew a total of attendance of about 112,000 people. And anybody that knows, you play 70 home games, that's not very attractive number there. So, it was our goal to make it all about customer service. It was all about making it community oriented. some place where families can go and have a good time, know that they're safe, it's affordable. And just a couple of years later, we set an all-time franchise record by drawing 354,000 people. So for us, it's, again, like you said, it's more about the environment, the entertainment, the experience. I'm a huge baseball guy, but at the end of the day, we like to tell everybody we're in the memory making business. You don't necessarily win, remember the score when you left, but you do remember, that kid getting the first foul ball and getting an autograph. And, so we have a lot of unique programs. Every Sunday before the game, we allow kids to come down on the field with their parents and play catch down on the field. And that's a memory making thing. And then at the end of the game, everybody gets to come down on the field and run the bases afterwards. And, a lot of it is when you're at the single A level, our players, while they're professionals, they're just getting started. They're excited. They love signing autographs as well. And so for us, we do a lot to get our fans engaged to what we're doing at the ballpark. Statistics show, our statistics show only about 15 to 20% of the people that come to the game are there as diehard baseball fans. So we're there to entertain those folks that are there for baseball, but then also, that other 85% of the folks, we need to show them a good time, and that's fireworks, giveaways, just unique things.
Well, I'll tell you, as a 50-year-old kid myself, maybe I need to start a movement here to have things like that for big kids like me. So, but just great to hear your involvement with the youth. I'm sure you got a pretty wide fan base as well, being your location right there, right along that corridor. You're obviously you're going to pull from Indiana, Michigan, but you're pulling from Illinois and Ohio now too. I'd recommend. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first 3 years here we were still part of the Arizona Diamondbacks, organization as an affiliate for them. And honestly, for us, that was okay. I mean, we needed to internally rebuild the trust of the community. We made improvements to the ballpark. We had to build the customer service aspect and get the right front office staff in place. So when 2015 did come around and we were able to at least approach the Cubs, we were in a position to succeed. And that certainly has happened. I mean, each year, you're getting a ton of fans coming out to the ballpark. And, really, I would say consistently we draw within about a 60, 65-mile radius to our games. But then on the weekends, we hear the stories of the folks coming over from Chicago, the folks coming from, Fort Wayne, Indiana coming up, the folks from Gary, Indiana, folks from Michigan. So we have really begun to attract really from within a 2-hour radius now, just with the change to the Cubs affiliation. It's a nice thing when you're only 100 miles away from your major league affiliate.
Exactly. Well, and I'll tell you, we like we said earlier, it's not all about the wins and the losses. And, with drawing fans, it's all these other things you can do, with the community. But now 2019 happens as we move into talking about the baseball season last year itself. You pretty much got the wins and losses taken care of too. What a fantastic season 2019 was. And I think as we talk about the 2019, it would probably have to start with the new coach that you picked up last year.
Oh yeah, Buddy Bailey. I mean, he is he's one of the best in the business. He's a legend. Been coaching, I think, now 42 years. It was our first year having him in South Bend. He's been in the Cubs organization, I want to say 12 or 13 years. But he's been coaching forever, and he is undoubtedly a winner. He's an old school baseball player, likes to do it, very regimented. And I think that's what these kids at the younger levels need. They need that agenda. They need to learn how to play the game the right way. I think this past year winning the Midwest League Championship, I think it was ultimately Buddy's either 13th or 14th championship win as a manager. I mean, think about that. I mean, as a manager, you might have enough talent that you could back into a win or two over the course of your career. But to win 13 or 14 of them, you obviously know what you're doing. And these kids played hard for them. And we had a tremendous run through the playoff. We went 7-0. Didn't lose a game. And these kids played hard. As Buddy said at one point, it's 35-man roster, 35 individual heartbeats beating as one because they truly played as a team. But that started with the man at the top. And that's why he's got over 2,100 career victories as a minor league.
100. Wait, let's just pause and appreciate that for a second. Over 2,100 wins. That is unperceivable.
Yeah, I think he's 5th or 6th right now. My understanding is from what we've been told, he's going to be back with us for this upcoming year. I think he needs to do probably another 2 or 3 more years, and he could ultimately be the number one winningest manager of all time. But I mean, like you said, over 2,100 career victories. That's something special.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, this year he added quite a few of them. You talked about, sweeping the playoffs 7-0, including, sweeping the finals versus the Clinton Lumber Kings, the Midwest League, which is that's a pretty strong league right there. You didn't sweep through some weak league. It was a, very good year. So as we look at that, we talked about the coach, just some highlights of the season. One dynamic of minor league baseball to me as a not just a casual fan, I think it's fair to say, but
Sure.
that dynamic of players going up and going down, in minor leagues, you're going up to 2A, you're going, some of them skip to 3A, but you don't have the same team, not only from year to year, but within the season. The coaching aspect is really difficult. So talk about some of the highlights of this year, maybe some player statistics, some of the great things that went on there at Four Winds Field this year.
Well, I think the biggest thing is what you were talking about, players coming and going. To put it in perspective is, typically we have a 25-man roster, but this past year we had 60 guys play with us over the course of the year. So that shows how much movement there is within the system. So you'll have guys that are playing well. The better they play, the quicker they go. They get called up to the next level, which is great for them. But then ultimately our roster changed. We get backfilled from the younger kids in Eugene. The Emeralds come up and kind of backfill for us. But yeah, it's a lot of change. And, again, that's where the coaching staff, I think, comes in to be very important, because now you're constantly managing people. You can't build that cohesive team because you have so much turnover. But this year we had guys like Braylon Marquez, who I think now is rated as the #1 pitcher in the Cubs system. I mean, phenomenal young man. I think he's 18, 19 years old. His last 2 starts with us, he put it together. I mean, I've never seen somebody pitch. So I think he had 14 strikeouts in his last appearance in 6 innings. I mean, throwing 102 miles an hour, just dealing. They went up to Myrtle Beach and continued to throw well. So he's a name to watch. The other fun thing for us is being so close to Chicago, we get major league rehabs on a key. We had Victor Carantini with us for a week. We had Mike Montgomery before he got traded. Ben Zobrist was with us for a weekend. So over the years, I mean, we had Yu Darvish in 2018, Jason Hayward, Dexter Fowler. So it's a lot of fun, but there are a lot of moving parts. And, we had David Bodie and Ian Happ, 2 guys that are with the big league club now. They played with us in 2015. Gleyber Torres with the New York Yankees is an all-star. He was with us also in 2015. So it's fun to see these guys come up. And while, they came up as Cubs, some of them, they may not end up making to the big leagues as Cubs. I mean, another one is Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez with the White Sox. They came through South Bend in 2016. So we see a lot of young talent come through here. But, yeah, there's a ton of change each and every season.
That's another great dynamic. Like you said, it's kind of hard from a coaching standpoint, but from a fan standpoint, it's an Easter egg hunt. You come there and you never know who you're going to see that's going to end up, being a big name. But it's not all about that. It's the fan experience at Four Winds Field and everything else. It's just a win-win, and that's why I love minor league baseball. So we talked about the 2019 season. We could probably have a whole show just on that. But let's look forward a little bit, and let's look at 2020 and beyond from a franchise standpoint, from the South Bend Cubs organization and the community standpoint. What can we looking forward for the South Bend Cubs?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is, at least the initial part of the season, we're going to celebrate this Midwest League championship. I've been in, like I said, minor league baseball for 25 years. This is only the second minor league team I've ever been with that's won a championship. So it's not something that happens very frequently. It's the first time South Bend franchise has won since 2005. So it's been 14 years. So we're going to take the time to celebrate it. I look forward to being able to present the players with their Midwest League championship rings. We actually had a holiday party for our seasonal staff, in which we gave out 208 rings to our seasonal staff as well, because, again, it is a team effort. It doesn't just happen by us in the front office or just the guys on the field. It also incorporates, the fan hosts, the ticket takers, the concession workers. They're part of making it a great experience for the fans, and we wanted to reward them. So I know that's something very different. A lot of minor league clubs typically don't pass rings down that far down the level. But for us, and with our owner, Andrew Berlin, we know from day one, without those seasonal staff members, we can't do what we do. So we wanted to celebrate them. And, obviously the other unique thing in 2019, we hosted the Midwest League All-Star Game, which was the first time our city has hosted it in 30 years. So 2019 was undoubtedly a record-setting year. It was insane at different times of the year with everything going on. So now 2020, it's, we turned the page. Yes, we won last year. We'd love to win it again. But we're going to have a whole new group of guys. As I mentioned, I think, as what we've been told, Buddy will be back to lead things from the dugout, which is a great start as we head into 2020. And then for us, it's how do we make the customer service experience better? How do we continue our outreach in the community? What are we doing with our youth programs? We have a reading program also that we do that reaches about 30,000 kids. It encourages them to read in school. So, every year it gets a little bit tougher of what we can do. I mean, this is going to be the first year we've not had major construction or new development. So for us, it's just trying to fine tune some things. It's highlighting the Ivy at Berlin Place, which was a $23 million development in which our owner put some apartment buildings out beyond the outfield wall. We put a rooftop on it, very similar to what they have at Wrigley Field, in which we sell tickets for. So, yeah, we're trying to be Wrigleyville East, so to speak, and kind of create that same atmosphere in South Bend. And our community's taking a lot of pride in it. I think it shows when you see over 350,000 people coming out to the ballpark.
That stat right there is good for fans like me to hear, because especially with like I said, the reductions coming down, a lot of that fear from Major League Baseball. It's comforting to know that, in your tenure here, we've tripled the attendance at South Bend there for Cubs games. So that there's no fear. We're going to have South Bend Cubs in 2020 and beyond. So that's, let's start there. And the way things are moving for you guys, it's just fantastic to hear. And as we wrap things up here, I'll tell you, now I've got a challenge for you. Now, I know you're a Pennsylvania guy by birth, but you've been here long enough. You are a Hoosier now. So I am Hardy the Hat Guy. So I'm going to challenge you here. What we're doing on these interviews is something a little bit fun. We're doing a name the hat challenge here. And we've got 5 hats that we're going to challenge you on. Okay, so here's the challenge. I've got 5 hats. Now, these hats are either I'll give you a little bit of a hint. One of the hats is a college hat. The other 4 are high school hats. But because you're in South Bend, I made these all South Bend area schools. So I'll give you a little bit of I
appreciate the help. I appreciate the help on that.
Okay, so here we go. Hat number 1. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologize, Mr. Hart there. I don't know how that got in there. I truly apologize. Okay. In all seriousness, this is hat 1, and your only hint is this is a college, and obviously not the big college there in South Bend.
Yep. Recognize that. I'm going to go with Ancilla College.
That is right. That is Ancilla College, and I'll throw out just another plug there. The coach that wears this hat, Coach Woodridge, he was a player for Holy Cross baseball, also up there in South Bend, but they don't have a team anymore. I'm just throwing that out there because I like the guy, and he's on a quest to bring baseball back to Holy Cross. So I'm just throwing out a little help there for him.
That's great.
Hat number 2, another South Bend school, and I think this might be a little easier there. I think I accidentally kept the name on the hat.
No, not a problem. That's South Bend Clay.
That is for sure South Bend Clay. 2 for 2. Now we've got one person here that's got all 5. So you're on a roll, not to make you nervous. Another
Nice.
South Bend high school here.
This one's got to be John Adams.
Yep, that's another layup right there. I'll give you an alley-oop. Another South Bend school right here.
Love the logo on that. No, it's not the Washington Nationals, but it's going to be Washington High School, South Bend, Washington.
South Bend, Washington, and Hardy the Hat Guy, the thousands of hats that I have, this right here might be one of my favorites right here.
Yep.
The last one, now this is not actually a South Bend proper school, but it's in the area.
Yeah, this is Penn. This is Penn High School.
Penn Kingsman. I think that might have been another alley-oop I threw you there. So 5 for 5, our second 5 for 5 right there in the hat challenge. So, Mr. Hart, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I'm looking forward to coming up to Four Winds Field, maybe grabbing a handshake and seeing the South Bend Cubs in action there. I like I tell everybody, I'm a Midwest guy, so I root for the Cubs unless they're playing the Reds. But
nice.
I appreciate everything you guys are doing up there. I really mean that. And Mr. Hart, best to you for 2020 and best to the Cubs for 2020. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. As always, I enjoy talking baseball with anybody that enjoys talking baseball. So anytime you ever want to talk, just let me know. I hope to see you at Four Winds Field this summer. it's going to be another great season. And, I know you briefly touched on everything kind of going on with Major League Baseball and the talk about minor league baseball. And, it's interesting. It's there's definitely a little dark cloud over our industry right now as things continue to progress. And, I think at the end of the day, I think ultimately it'll end up working out. But, I think as I mentioned to you when we first started talking, a week or so ago is, in South Bend, we're good to go. We're not on that list. We have a great facility. We're close to Chicago. We're in a tremendous league in the Midwest League. So, rest assured, baseball will continue in South Bend. But it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens over the next, couple months. And, I love minor league baseball. It's all I've ever worked. So, we do a lot of great things in our communities. And, I hope all 160 of us get to stick around for a long time.